Okay, today we have to start chapter 4, univariate data analysis. So the learning outcomes for this chapter are that you would be able to know about different types of variable, and you will understand the scales of measurement, and you will know how to design a questionnaire, and you will understand the sampling techniques. You will know the sources of secondary data, and you will understand the measures of central tendency, measures of location, measures of dispersion, and measures of shape. And then you will also know how to draw graphs and charts and diagrams, okay, bar diagrams. And you will also learn the hypothesis testing, and you will get introduction of index number, and you will learn how to deal with the missing data. Okay, so these are the learning outcome for this chapter. First topic is variable. So variable is a characteristics which takes on different values for different individual object, place, and time. Okay. So price is a variable because it takes different values for different object. Profit is a variable because it takes different values for different firm. Cost is a variable, rent is a variable, wages, scale, sales. So all these are variable. So these are economic variables. Then we have some other variables like height is a variable, weight is a variable, temperature is a variable, pressure is a variable. So all these are variable which takes on different values for different object, because price will take different values for different object. Also temperature will take different values for different places and also for different times. Morning temperature is different, afternoon temperature is different, night temperature is different. So variable is something that changes. Okay. So for researcher, variable is very important. Okay. So which is also called, construct or property that are used as synonym for variables. And if there is a cause and effect relationship, then we have independent variable and dependent variable. Okay, so independent variable is presumed cause variable, and dependent variable is the presumed outcome variable. Okay, so in some model there is just one independent variable, but in some other model we have more than one independent variable, okay, that affect the dependent variable, and we see how the independent variable will affect dependent variable. Just like if you make a regression model, then you have dependent variable and then you have independent variable, and with independent variable parameters are attached, and then with some techniques we estimate these parameters, and with the sign and magnitude of these parameter we can say the effect and the extent of relationship. Okay. So independent variable are also known as predictor variable, and the dependent variable is also known as criterion variable. And so if there is a cause and effect relationship, so there is one dependent variable and at least one independent variable. But in some cases we have some other independent variable. So we have moderating variable or interaction variable, which is the second independent variable, and it is believed that this variable has a significant effect on the original relationship. Then there could be extraneous variable, and there are some other variable that might affect the given relationship, and such variable are extraneous variable. I will show you this. This is the example. You see, we have saving, we have income. So income affect saving. So this is dependent variable. Okay, this is independent variable. So income is independent variable, saving is a dependent variable. Now there is another variable which is called moderating variable, and this is interest rate. So in this cause and effect relationship, interest rate could be considered as moderating variable. Okay, and then we have some other variable that affect saving other than income and interest rate. So age could be a variable that affects saving. Literacy could be a variable that affects saving. Gender could be a variable that affect saving. So these are extraneous variable. Okay. So this is a way to know the relationship and to identify which variable is dependent variable and which variable is independent variable. So in some other model, it is possible that dependent variable is income and independent variable is saving or interest rate or any other variable. Okay, so this is the case when we are studying the income relationship. So then these are the additional variable. So core variable for saving model or saving function is the income. Okay, because we know that income is the core variable that affects saving, and then these are the additional variable: interest rate and age, literacy and gender, all these. So then we have quantitative variable and also the qualitative variable. So quantitative variable is something that is measurable or countable. So such like age and height and weight, family size and number of dependent, unemployment rate, bank balance, all these are the quantitative variables that are quantifiable. Okay. So then in the cause and effect relationship, we also have uh, qualitative variable. Okay. And in case of qualitative variable, this is because just a quality, so we cannot measure it, we can just rank or order it. So such variable could be race and color and religion or gender or nationality, geographical region or political affiliation. So to which political party you belong, what is your gender, nationality, all these. So that is the quality. Okay, qualitative variable. So in some model, mm, independent variables, some independent variable could be quantitative variable and some independent variable could be qualitative variable. And there are some model where dependent variable is quantitative variable or it could also be qualitative variable. Okay. Then we have dichotomous or binary variables. In this case, we have two values, okay, for such variable. Okay, it's like, and this reflect the presence or absence of a property, just like implied or unimplied, defective, uh, not defective. So a particular product could be defective or non-defective, or it could person, a labor force could be implied or unimplied. Okay, so in this case we have two values. Okay, and then we can code. Okay, we can code one or zero. One could be implied and zero could be unimplied. One could be defective, zero could be non-defective, or one could be non-defective, zero could be defective. So we just code and then we use such binary variable, a dichotomous variable in our model to estimate the effect of qualitative variable. And sometimes this is also called, dummy variable. Okay. So we assign 1 or 0, and this type of variable are called dummy variable. So in our regression model, we also use dummy variable where the values take 1 or 0, and this variable is generated by the researcher. Okay, so researcher assign the values 1 or 0 to a particular characteristic. Then we can further classify quantitative variables into discrete variable or continuous variable. So all countable characteristics are classified as discrete variable. In this case, we can count the characteristics such like family size, it is quantifiable, okay, and number of cars owned by a family, again it's a discrete variable, number of students in a class, and bedrooms in a house, all these are discrete variable, number of students, okay, in a class. And then there are some characteristics that are measurable, and such characteristics are called continuous variable, such like height. We have to measure height by scale. We have to measure weight by balance. We have to measure temperature by thermometer, pressure by barometer, distance again by scale. So all these variables are measurable, and using some instrument we use these we use to measure these characteristics. So these variable are continuous variable, and sometimes it is difficult to classify the variable as discrete or continuous. Like in economics, income variable is considered as discrete and also continuous. So, so we measure income by money. Okay, so monetary units, and then also we can count. Then we have scales of measurement. Okay. So when we take values on the variable, it will become data. Okay. So first we define the variable, and then we take values on such variable, then it will become data. So data is a plural of Latin term, datum, which means a given fact. So one single fact is datum, and a collection of fact is data. So data refers to a group of observation, okay, and data can be classified according to the level of scales of measurement, and which could be nominal or ordinal or interval or ratio scale. So basically the scales of measurement dictate the calculation that can be done to summarize the data. Like here we have nominal scale. So we have four scales of measurement. We have nominal scales, and ordinal scale, and ratio scale, and interval scale. So all these. So nominal scale are characterized by data that consist of names and labels and categories only. And nominal is derived from the Latin term nomen, meaning name. So names are basically in nominal scale, and this is the simplest and most primitive level of measurement. And a variable using a nominal scale of measurement has mutually exclusive categories. Okay, and in this case, data cannot be arranged in any ordering scheme. So we cannot arrange name in any ordering scheme. Alphabetical arrangement is possible, but we cannot, give any ranking to the name. Okay. So here we just classify the name, and then we can count name, how many names are there. So but we use nominal scale measurement and nominal data in business and also in economics. Then next is the ordinal scale. So data may be arranged in some order in the ordinal scale, but the differences between data values are meaningless and cannot be determined. Okay. So for example, the position of the student in a class, it could be first, second, third, and the rate a particular brand. You can rate a particular brand, whether it is poor or fair or good or excellent. Okay. You can also put the level of satisfaction for any drama or movie that is very low, fair, high, very high, or you can talk about the likeness. You like it, yeah, you don't like it. So in this case, we can just give order, but the differences between the data values are meaningless. Okay, so the gap, you know, you know, you see with one point you can change the position. Okay, so gap is meaningless. We cannot, identify what should be the gap for the next category. We cannot know, from very low to low, how much is the gap, from low to fair, and from fair to high. So this gap is meaningless. And in research, to measure the intensity of such, measurement, we use Likert scale. Likert scale is designed by Renes Likert, and this is used for rating scale of ordinal data. Okay, so here we ask the respondent to choose from different degrees of feeling about a statement, from strong disapproval to approval. Like here, we have strongly agree, we have strongly disagree. So we can start one from strongly disagree, then disagree, we have two, neutral, we have three, we have agree is a four, and strongly agree we can assign five. So this shows the intensity. So if someone asks a question, do you think that this online teaching is very effective? So you can say that strongly agree, or you can say strongly disagree, or you can say agree or neutral, disagree. So you can ask such questions, and then you can get the ranking. Then we have interval scale. So in the interval scale, data are like the ordinal level data, but the differences between any two values is meaningful. The additional property. Okay, now in this case, interval scale, the difference is meaningful, but there is no natural zero starting point. Okay, so this is another problem with interval scale. Difference is meaningful, but for example, if we say the temperature, so boiling temperature is 100 degrees centigrade and freezing temperature is 0 degrees centigrade. So each degree is a measurement of temperature. Higher the degree, higher the temperature. Okay. Now the freezing and boiling points are arbitrary. So we cannot say that 40 degrees centigrade is twice as hot as 20 degrees centigrade. Okay, so zero starting point is this is arbitrary. We are using zero starting point by ourselves. We assign that 0 degree centigrade is the freezing point. Other scale examples of interval scale are the student IQ and period of time. So we made, this is, we are saying this is 2020 and then 2010 and 1947 and then we are going, but we have assigned the arbitrary starting. So zero year doesn't mean that world or universe started from that year. This is our assignment, no? So because we don't know the starting point of this universe, so that's why we have arbitrarily assigned this 0 year and then we are measuring. And the ratio scale is the interval level which is modified to include the natural zero starting point. In the interval scale there is arbitrary, zero, but here we have natural zero, and here a zero indicates that none of the quantity is present. Okay, and again in the ratio scale the differences and ratios are meaningful. For example, a person whose age is 60 years is twice as old as a person whose age is 30 years. So the difference is meaningful, no? From 30 to 60. And also zero, from zero we start no birth period, then till the death. If there is suppose price of book, so if its price is zero, it means it is available free of cost. And then suppose $10 or $20 or $30, so we can say that $20 book is twice expensive than a $10 book. So difference is meaningful. Okay, then we have data. We have primary data. This is the data which a researcher collect personally or through a team of surveyor. And if you want to collect primary data, then you have to define your population. Okay. And if you get the data for the entire population, it is called census. Now, population refers to whole group of people, object, events, or measurement with something in common. Like we say, the student of Karachi University, this is the population. Okay. Or if I say student of public sector universities, this is a population. Or I can say student of private sector universities, again it is a population. I can say students of universities of Pakistan. Now this will include public sector and private sector universities student. So population, is defined by the researcher. The researcher will define the population. What would be the population in his study? So whenever we say population, doesn't mean that population of people. Here in research, population refers to a group that you will define for particular. Now, if you want to collect the data for the entire population, which is called census, it would be very costly, it will be time consuming, and it requires a big team. Therefore, researchers, they rely on sample. So from population we get sample. Now sample is a smaller and manageable set of data that a researcher choose from a broader set of data, which is population. So basically a sample is a subset of population because it is time consuming, it is costly to get the data for the entire population. So researchers choose a sample, and in some cases uh, we must choose a sample rather than a population census. Okay, because if suppose there are products which are produced, okay, now you want to know the ratio of defective items, and you can only know the this destroy that item. So when you destroy that item, then you will be able to know whether the product is defective or non-defective. Now in this case, if you get the data for the entire population, so this means you have to destroy all product, which is not a rational way to identify. That's why, in this case, we have to get sample. We have to suppose if we have produced 1,000 items, we can just select 50 items, and because we have to destroy each item to know whether it's defective or non-defective, so we can just destroy 50 items, and then you will know how many items were defective, how many items were non-defective, and then you can know the percentage of defective item within that 50 item, and then you can generalize it for the rest of the items. So in this way you saved 950 items. Okay, so some samples are important, but if you want to get a sample, then you have to predefine the selection methods, okay, which is called a sampling frame. So sampling frame defines a set of elements from which researcher can select a sample unit from the target population, and the sample unit is one of the unit chosen for sampling, and samples can be obtained using observations, interviewing, or questionnaire. So this is a very popular method to get the data personally, which is the primary data. For this, we have to design, a questionnaire. So a questionnaire is a tool for securing answer to a set of questions. Now, in the questionnaire, each question represent a variable. Okay, so it depends there are how many variable in your study. So you have to convert the variable into questions, and then when you get the answers for such questions, so this means you are getting the data on those variables. Okay, and how to get the response of these questions? It could be online input. Okay, you can put on Google, and then people can input online, or there could be a postal reply. You can send the questionnaire by post, and then they can fill it, and then you know resend you, and or it could be by hand delivery in collection. Okay, you can deliver it to someone, and next day you may collect it, or through telephone or WhatsApp you can get the response to your questions, and there could also be a face-to-face interview. Okay, so these are different methods to get the response of your questions that are in your questionnaire. And in the questionnaire, the intensity of the response is handled by the Likert scale. Just like if you like strongly agree, strongly disagree, and agree, and disagree, and neutral. So such intensity is handled by Likert scale. You have to assign 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like this. And the validity, data accurately measure what they were intended to measure. And the reliability, data collection will yield consistent finding if replicated. Of the collected data depends on the questionnaire design. So how you design your questionnaire and how you are getting the data, this will confirm the validity and the reliability. And whenever you design a questionnaire and suppose you have to get the response from 100 persons, so then you cannot initiate it in the beginning with from the 100%. Maybe you will get response from 10%, and it should be a pilot study. So it will be then with this 10 responses, you will be able to know what are the drawbacks of your questionnaire, where there are mistakes, and then you can correct your mistake, and then you can get data from the rest of the people after modification of your questionnaire. Same is with if you have to get data from 1000 people, you have to get responses of 1000 respondent. Then in this case, again, first you have to print maybe 50 questionnaire and get the responses. That would be a pilot study. And with this 50, you will know what are the problems with your questionnaire, which questions have some problems you can correct if there are any mistakes, and then you can get responses from the 1000 respondents. These are some guidelines for designing a questionnaire. You have to explain the purpose and uses of data which is collected, okay, because in some cases the people are reluctant to respond to some questions. Maybe they are personal or maybe they are sensitive questions. So in that case, if you explain the purpose and the uses of data, maybe they will be free to answer such questions. Okay. And you have to keep your questionnaire as short as possible, because if your questionnaire is very lengthy, then the respondent may quit the questionnaire in the middle, so then again it will be a trouble. So we have to keep our questionnaire as short as possible, and you have to include only relevant questions in the questionnaire. And you have to avoid leading questions. Okay, you have to avoid ambiguous questions. Okay, like where do you like to go? Okay, it's ambiguous question. For what purpose? You were at nightclub last night, weren't you? So this is leading questions. Avoid negative questions and offensive questions. Like, don't you think XYZ political party is biased? Maybe that person belongs to that particular party. So this could be offensive question or negative question for that person. And you have to avoid double-barreled questions. In some question there are two questions, then it would be a double barrel question. So again it would be a trouble for the respondent how to answer this question. Like, are you happy with your boss and lower staff? So now there are two questions in this question. Maybe that person is happy with the lower staff but not happy with his boss. So if the answer is yes or no, so then the question is yes is for what? For the boss or lower staff? So we have to avoid double barrel questions. Okay, and you have to avoid the questions that requires lengthy answers. Normally we give the questions where sometime we provide the possible responses and then we say others. So we avoid that respondent should write a complete reply of that questions. And you have to avoid negative questions. You have to avoid questions that will cause offense, embarrassment, or sadness. You have to use simple vocabulary, don't use complex vocabulary or jargon or technical terms. People are not aware of technical terms, so make your questions simple, and it is suggested that it should be in local language so that people could understand your questions. So if it is in foreign language, maybe the local people, they are not, you know, they cannot give their answer in foreign language. So we prefer that your questionnaire should be in local language, and we have to avoid complicated questions. Okay. And then we should not place sensitive questions too early. So in the beginning, we should not ask personal questions or sensitive questions. Maybe that person will not be ready to answer such personal or sensitive question. Then they will quit in the beginning. So it is better to get the answer for other question, and at the end you have to ask such sensitive question or personal question. So then they will be used to, and they will understand the purpose of the research, and maybe they will answer the question. And we also put the demographic question at the end. Okay.